You don't need to invest like in crazy expensive hardware to be able to help them.
It's easy to get carried away with tech. On paper, it always sounds like a great idea, but to put it into practice, within construction at least, can be challenging. Too much tech is like a Chinese buffet. Stick with me on this one. It looks great. You know it's going to work for you. But once you're in it, it can become uncomfortable very quickly. And the worst thing you can do is keep on going. Well, probably the worst thing you can do is miss out on the crispy duck, but that's not really for this podcast, is it? No. Some tech is just too complex, in-depth, hard to implement fast enough to see a real return for many organizations within construction. In 2014, MBS published an article that listed some of these, at the time, new technologies. These new technologies consisted of predictive and collaborative design through BIM, smart buildings using Internet of Things, biotechnology and nanotechnology, and new building materials, 3D printing for building elements and systems. Nearly a decade later, and we're not as advanced as we thought we were, or thought we might be. It's the same old, really. Tech takes time to seep through into the masses and become commonplace. But this can give organizations a competitive advantage by choosing the right tech, the right solution, and making sure it's integrated successfully prior to it becoming a prerequisite for most. And this is where I feel we are with some technology today. If we break this down into a direct comparison, VR is currently a step too far. That's virtual reality. Whereas AR, augmented reality, is easier to integrate as the hardware and software is more accessible to more people. But does it offer enough benefits to make it a technology that the construction industry should embrace? I'm chatting with Gamma Technology's co-founders, CEO Jayan Dolas and CTO Jayan Jevanesan. I'm so sorry about the pronunciations. Jayan is an architect, digital transformation expert and visionary who is currently overseeing the development of their flagship product, Gamma AR. He has a background in architecture, digitalization, BIM, research, development projects, and strategic consulting on digital transformation in manufacturing and design, with a specific emphasis on automation. Jayan obtained a diploma in natural sciences and mathematics, and a degree and a master's in computer science, and has been working in the tech industry for 6 years now, beginning this career as a software developer and student assistant at Formitas AG, a developer of BIM tools, critical for the construction industry. Currently, his experience helps to bring Gamma AR to life through their easy-to-use app. Chaps, welcome to Construction Disrupted.
Thanks for the invitation, and also very happy and delighted to be part of your podcast. Happy to share some insights about what we are doing, and I think having great discussions.
Yes, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this. It'll be really, really good. In doing some research for this podcast, one thing that surprised me was the actual AR market in total is worth between something like $9 billion and $150 billion. When you narrow that down to construction, obviously there's a huge opportunity for AR to be really, really pivotal technology within construction. But what I'd like to start with understanding is augmented reality a true reality for construction? Big question to start, I know, but it's massively important.
Actually, it's pretty well to answer. If you think about how currently construction is basically provided with information, just simply that it is very classical still, meaning it's 2D plans, it's spreadsheets, and this is then brought to the site. What this leads to at the end is many times like miscommunication. It's not easy to understand those, especially if you have like complex situations, especially with like MEP and so on. So people make mistakes, and you can understand that too. There's massive massive pressure on the people on site. They have to deliver all the time. They don't have a lot of time, so they will make mistakes, and it's kind of inevitable. Plus there's changes on sites every day, you know it. So there because of that stuff, it is, I think, one of the great opportunities of augmented reality to be able to provide information in a more intuitive and humanly understandable way. It's clear, it's direct. So
Yeah.
so that helps with that.
Like he said, augmented reality is very intuitive. So combined with the 3D BIM models that we have, actually, which are normally used by architects and engineers, like augmented reality can overlay and make it easy to understand the intentions of what has to be built. So before the construction is even started, you can already visualize, and you don't have to imagine the 2D plan being there, but you actually have the objects, the actual objects, how they're going to look like in the future, on overlaid onto the site. And this also allows a lot of errors to be foreseen before you even start building, and also allows people to discuss on site, live on site with their tablet together, about how it should be constructed and what kind of problems may arise and stuff like that.
You were mentioning the market size. That's super
Yeah.
interesting, because obviously we analyzed this topics too. What was definitely great to realize was that the pain point, just like of rework alone, is worldwide at 720 billion. It's a massive waste, and this is something that we all can at the end basically tackle. And this comes not only at the end with just cost savings, like the potential that is wasted is one part. Then the, let's say, carbon footprint of construction, let's put it this way, is not the best anyways. So we can definitely, I would say, work on that.
It's not only during or before construction, it's also after. So when once the building is finished, then there's an entirely new market again for facility management. And construction is not only buildings, it's also roads and ships, for example. So it's pretty huge.
There was a really good comparison made, and it might sound very familiar, in how we navigate around a city and using a street map. And not using, say, a phone or something, or GPS or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a little crazy how, when we look at the valuation of construction and buildings, we always look for the valuation and how much things have cost, as opposed to the wastage and how much it could have cost, and adding that on top. You know, I know there's usually you start with a figure, and then usually in the UK you can double that figure, and that's going to be the figure that's going to be the building cost. But it's funny, because if we take into consideration wastage and all that kind of things, I bet it's even higher.
Like, there are some statistics about this. There have been, for example, a study done by FMI, which actually shows that only 50% of all, let's say, issues on site are actually reported currently. Which makes sense, because like there's so many mistakes. Nobody cares about the small stuff. That will never, like, but the amount of small stuff is still like very, very high. It's just you see that there is, let's put it this way, a lot of improvement. And I think with increased efficiency, we will also achieve at the end for the industry different things, meaning also like better competitiveness. Like this industry has been, I would say, plagued with like very low revenues at the end. Profitability is very low in terms of that. Just in terms, like, if you talk about I don't know how is it in the UK, but for example, Germany, you have like net profitability of like 3% in the construction industry, so it's not very high.
It is low. So profitability can be a key issue. Margins are really low, and anything that we can use from a technology point of view to help facilitate that and improve on that is a positive thing. So one thing that I'd quite like to understand is why focus on AR when there's so much other tech out there? Why did you go down the AR route?
So why did we go down the AR road? Basically, it's one of the first encounters with information on site that we can help to manage. Currently, if you think about where BIM is, where VDC stuff is happening, in the design phase, there's a lot of tech already, and there is already a lot of efficiencies that are already at the end brought up from the bottom, basically to deal with that. There's great software outside in the market to help designers, let's say, manage their projects with BIM, VDC, and so on. But as you go to the construction site, all those goes away. So you have kind of let's say, I would say probably like 95% of all construction sites still run on pen and paper, and maybe just a few percentages are like still like digital. So there's a huge market there. Plus, you have to always think, like just mentioning that, as somebody that is from the field that experienced at the end on sites all the, let's say, different kind of situations that arise, and all the, let's say, many mistakes that could have been prevented if it would have been just like easily shown to the people on site, to the workers on site. That's something that it's just very clear. It helps.
Yeah, and it's actually the only tech that allows you to today actually visualize the building before on site. There's no other tech that can do that. I mean, you could use VR in the office, but then you're in the office, or you could use scanning applications, but that's only when you already built something. So to preview stuff really on site at the time of building or even before, so that's only possible with AR.
It's basically taking the imagination away in terms of what should have been built, and makes it clear. So I think especially dealing with let's say all the let's say information that is available currently through the BIM models is a great let's say problem if you have to derive 2D plans out of that. So you have to derive 2D plans, you will not have all the information there. So by basically not breaking this information flow and just going directly with the BIM model to the site, it facilitates the communication massively.
Yeah, absolutely. So anything that facilitates that flow of information a lot easier is massively important. One thing that I'd quite like to understand is that apparently less than 20% of project managers use apps to access project data and collaborate on site. How do we break that barrier? How do we get more people using obviously AR, but technology in general to make that flow of information easier?
So from all the things that I'm seeing currently is it's happening kind of automatically, because there is some competition between all the companies. So the ones that are more efficient at the end, like get more customers, perform better. So that's one part. But one of the great important things is, I think, education is super important. So we need to, as an industry, we need to invest massively on educating our people on what is possible and what can be achieved with, let's say, different technologies. Again, it's not about AR, but it helps.
But there's also a generational change which is automatically happening. So you've got construction managers. There's a lot of construction managers. They are in their 50s, almost 60. And they're not from this native digitals that can't live without a smartphone. And this shift will come. at some point. We already see it. So there are more and more young people on construction sites that say, yeah, AR, that's awesome, and using the phone. I have a phone anyways in my pocket, so why not use it efficiently
Yeah.
instead of printing out paper plans and like you
Yeah,
said,
and
navigating through the city with a map.
can you imagine a huge map navigating around a city? Just craziness. It's interesting that you pick up on that transformation, because yeah, it's the next generation that will demand that technology, won't they? That they'll want it, and I can see that actually happening. So, my son, you know, he's really young, but he can navigate a phone as good as anyone, and you know, if and he loves building as well. He loves construction and things like that. So if he wanted to go down that route, and I told him no, you can't use any of that technology, he'd find it crazy, you know. So that will be an interesting change as people come through and demand it as well. That'll be really cool.
I think what is important with this generational change is also the people that come currently, like out of the universities, out of the colleges, they already experienced during their educational period all the BIM stuff already. So they learned how to model, they learned about this, and so they have already this experience, and I think that
Mm.
that greatly enhances their chances of let's say implementing technologies on their sites.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So speaking of the technology, because this is the bit where
Mhm.
it can get slightly lost with the hardware and the software. Uh, One thing that I was reading was that, and I'll read this as it was on the website. I can't remember which site I read it on, but it said by the end of the decade, enterprise AR will account for 65% of global AR revenue, as enterprise AR headsets dominate the market. Construction businesses will adopt AR in the coming years, but the high cost of headsets and smart
Mhm.
glasses will be a barrier to widespread adoption in the short term, which makes sense, particularly in the UK market, with a lot of smaller SMEs not seeing the value in investing in
Mhm.
technology. So when it comes to the likes of Gamma AR, how are we getting around that?
That's very easy. We actually, that's why we actually focus on tablets and phones because everyone has them.
Yeah.
And the headsets are still in a phase where they're too expensive.
Mm,
They are not precise enough to use on site because even small deviations between model and reality can lead to motion sickness or even dangers on construction sites. You have to have certain certifications to even use them on your helmet,
oh wow.
and yeah, that's why we are doing phones and tablets first.
Yeah, absolutely. Say I wanted to start using your technology on a site.
Mhm.
What do I have to do?
So we recommend always newer phones because they have more performance and better cameras. Our solution works on iOS and Android,
Mhm.
so we pretty much cover most of people's phones. But at the end, it depends on what you want to do. If you want a lot of precision, then of course we recommend devices from Apple that have lidar sensors because they're much better in tracking. And with this, you would have actually enough performance and precision to do your work.
Mhm.
But then, of course, there's another level of precision which we cannot reach with tablets and phones yet. And yeah.
But it's also important is how you at the end set up your processes on sites. So
Mhm.
the thing with augmented reality on phones and tablets is current hardware, like even what I have now in my pocket. This is iPhone, so they have all these lidar devices that Jayan mentioned. And this makes tracking actually like already far superior to the ones without this LiDAR sensors. The important part is how you place the model on site. And what we did is actually pretty cool, because currently you don't need to, for us at least, place anything on site. You don't need to prepare your site. You just need to take your model and you basically just align one edge in the model to one edge in the reality, in the construction site, and you can choose whatever it is. So it's your decision where you want to start, and this makes it kind of greatly easy to get things moving in terms of how to get started. What we have seen also, that's I think some important things that we learned in the process. When we started, we were also trying out like QR codes and all this, good for presentation. It doesn't work
For
on sites.
marketing too.
Yeah, it doesn't really work on sites, because the problem is you need to prepare. Nobody has time. That's like what we are seeing all over the place. We can't put more, let's say, more tasks on the construction managers that are already full of them. So we need to do stuff from our side, from a technology perspective, to let them, let's say, be able to use whatever they have just readily at hand, which is smartphones, tablets, the BIM models, and just go to the site. That's it. So that's the thing.
Yeah, that's in terms of tracking. And then there's also the models that can be very, very huge. And we've also developed a system that allows you to load the biggest models. We managed to load a 45 gigabyte model on a phone and on a tablet. So that's also a very important thing to see, because the phones have, of course, limited capabilities.
What we've done there, we've spoken a lot about on-site and the usage and how simple it is to use it on-site. Are there any benefits off-site then of using this technology?
Yeah, of course. So
I thought there might be.
Yeah, like depends on what we are talking about. If you're talking about like the processes, yes, for sure. Let's say you want to make a change because there's been some, let's say, stuff messed up on site. Something has been not executed as planned, which happens all the time. It's important that you are able to pinpoint to the current problem, so the designers can make the changes actually easily. And I can say from experience, because like long time ago, I used to work as an architect as well. So in that period, being a planner, a designer, you get calls from the site managers, and they tell you, hey, like we need to make changes here and there, and you are struggling every time. It's like on the phone, just try to understand what he tries to say, where the problem is. Then they're stressed. So that creates a problem with augmented reality. You already have the model on site, so you're able to pinpoint exactly where to the situation that, let's say, has occurred, just through the app. Just create your issue and you send it to the designer, and it has at the end like the information directly on the object. It's super clear, it's unambiguous, so that makes it pretty, let's say, fast in communication between the site and the office. There is also other things that you can do, obviously, if you want to just use it to communicate things better to, let's say, to laymen who don't understand, let's say, plans very well as well. Then you can use augmented reality, because it's pretty intuitive.
Yeah, and that's one of the key things, isn't it? Even though we were talking about a new generation coming through, and there being an older generation that don't use this technology so widespread, there is the opportunity for somebody that understands it to say to somebody, no, just look at this screen, and this is the change. You don't have to necessarily know the tech. As long as one person can use it, they can show somebody else those changes, which then can be implemented, right?
And I have an example that, like, it happens sometimes that I go to the sites and we were talking about the generation change, which is actually like a funny example in this specific one. Sometimes what happens is there are younger, let's say, superintendent site managers, and they are super easy with the tech. They're just like, okay, that's a digital natives. They are fine. So sometimes what happens is that like an older superintendent or site manager will go to them and tell them, hey, can you just come with me and show me in Gamma how this stuff works like in here, so they can just directly understand what has to be done. This kind of things happen as well. I think it's just at the beginning during the adoption phase, obviously, because people have to understand at one point how tech works, and it's not complicated at all. I think that's like something that we are kind of very, very proud of, that we just made it super, let's say, simple to use at the end augmented reality for construction.
I've seen your technology in action at Digital Construction Week. Jayan was kind enough to literally show me around the stand using it, and like you say, it is super simple, and it was literally just on an iPad, and this is the stand and this is what you can see, and it was really exciting to see how easy that was. The final thing that I just want to touch upon is the longer term benefits, almost going behind the technology. So moving into the future, can you see augmented reality being integrated into other systems? How could that be integrated into things like potentially robotics or 3D printing? Could that be integrated into things that would make other areas of construction more efficient?
If you want to have, like, I think for the next, let's say, 50 years, there's going to be not a robot uprising. And I think as long as robots are developing in this way, there's going to be at one point, hopefully, a cooperation in terms of, let's say, how do you manage the sites? And since it's not like a production line, like in a car facility, in a car manufacturing facility, you need to be able to let's say manage, let's say, the robots as well. In that way, let's say if you want to transport one object to another place, just pinpoint, okay, I would like to build this in augmented reality and let it go there. Currently, I would say the integrations that we are currently, at least today, thinking of is obviously between the different software landscapes, and that's something that we are doing all the time, which is, for example, collaborating with Autodesk, and at the end, all the data that we share, if the users want to share, like access it through Autodesk ecosystem, they can just get it. So they can access their models from Autodesk, send their issues back. The same with Procore or BIM Collab and so on. And this is something that is for today like this. So it's more at the end still project management and these integrations at terms. For the future, in terms of let's say all the to use all the buzzwords, just not be accepted.
Yeah, go for it.
I will go for that. What you can always do is let's say set up everything in terms of automation regarding regarding the processes. That's I would say the next level in the next, let's say, 5 years, until, let's say, we get more like humanoid robotics in maybe 50 years. I'm sure. Depends on how AI works in that time. But talking about AI, for example, that's going to be an interesting case for us as well, because obviously our clients, they collect for themselves all the data, and why not allowing them to automatically classify the information? Since, for example, you have issue data directly from the, like, connect to the BIM models, classified, structured well, coming through Gamma into our database. Why not allowing our let's say our customers to use the data at the end to say, hey, why not automatically classify them just on the go if you are on site? So you can just directly create issues without definitely having someone super skilled to understand everything on site. We have a current situation with labor shortages on the construction market. We know that there's not enough people. There's also not many people getting in as well. So we need to do definitely with less people more, and that's something that is definitely for a task for, let's say, the next 10 years. Regarding let's say regarding 3D printing and so on in construction, as you know, there's like a lot of let's say research going on, especially with concrete printing and or sintering for metals. For that stuff, augmented reality is not necessary. But what it can help is to combine data at the end, to bring stuff together, to explain better. Every time where humans are involved, augmented reality makes definitely a big sense.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's so many other benefits, and like you're saying, with AI and other technology that's pulling through, if everything starts to become more integrated, then that skill shortage becomes less and less of an issue. And that's one thing I don't think people are talking about, is that we have this skill shortage, and what you usually hear, particularly in the UK, is that we have this skill shortage, so we need X amount of people to cover that skill shortage. Nobody's actually mentioning the technology that could potentially reduce that number that's required, which is an interesting way to look at it.
As an example, I think we have to really, in terms of our societies, think about this, and it always makes a big change. If you think about how agriculture, like how much percent of the population used to work on farms,
Yeah.
and now it's like 1% or so, like nothing. And that's something that I think will happen always by providing at the end technology that really helps to deal with that. And it's good, actually, because these things at the end help to focus on what really matters. So building better, building higher quality buildings, building faster, as like, even if it's not in everywhere the same in terms of, let's say, population growth, but worldwide populations are growing like massively. There is a lot of urbanization happening all over the world, especially like in the developing countries. And what is great thing also with Gamma about this is you don't need to invest like in crazy expensive hardware to be able to help them. So they can use Gamma everywhere just with what they have, and making at the end the quality of, let's say, buildings, at least in that part, better. That's what we can do and what we're doing.
Fantastic. So final thing from me then, focusing, let's focus on Gamma AR specifically. What's the next steps? What's the next stages for Gamma AR?
Definitely more integrations, because we don't want to disrupt existing processes on site, because people are already using all kinds of software and it's already there since a few years. So you cannot just go there and replace something. So our goal is to have as many integrations as possible that people can actually use Gamma and integrate it into their existing processes. And then, of course, there's a lot of improvement that we're going to do. Speaking of tracking, of course, this will continue to get improved. So people on site just have the best experience possible and don't have to prepare or take care of anything. It should, of course, be easier than a paper plan. And a paper plan you can still just take out of your pocket. And it's less work than, still opening the app and looking where you are and positioning yourself and dealing with drift or hardware or anything like this.
So definitely in the next couple of years, I would say our biggest topics are making it more accessible for more and more, let's say, population. And that comes with usability improvements. At the same time, that comes with, as Jayan said, all the like definitely more file types, more integrations into systems. In this way, we are able to, let's say, ever expand, let's say, the possibility to use AR on sites. And
And in the long term, of course, new markets, like I said at the beginning. So there are many markets where AR can be useful, and there's many markets inside of this building markets, like facility management. There is shipbuilding. There is infrastructure and all of this. So they're very similar, but they're different enough so that we have to do some development to go into these.
Chaps, thank you so much for your time. I think the technology is great. I think it's great what you've done, and it'll be really interesting to see where you take it in the future. So thank you so much once again for your time.
Thank you too.
Peter, thanks a lot. And yeah, see you then next time.